Hi everyone, my name is Sydney and today we're going to be discussing Lili Reinhart's poetry book, Swimming Lessons. But before we go into that, I wanted to say Happy New Year. We are in a new year. What the fuck, it's January. Well done guys, we made it. We're all gonna be okay. I really hope that this new year will be one that is different from the last. One that will be better for all of us in this very confusing new world that we're in. But yeah, in saying that, what do I wish to gain from this year, 2021? I need to keep saying 2021 because it just feels so weird to say. It just feels so weird that we're already in this new time frame. The biggest thing I wish to let go of is fear. I really want to read a lot more than I did last year. I really want to finish the Hunger Games trilogy and read the new Suzanne Collins book, which is all about President Snow from the past. I've heard some bad things about it, but I'm excited to read it for myself to make my own opinion of it. I really need to finish Cassandra Clare's books because I have all of them and I haven't finished them, especially the Infernal Devices and the Mortal Instruments series. I have one more left to go in both of those series and I still haven't completed them, which just disappoints me 100% because I love Cassandra Clare and her books are everything. An author that I am so happy that I discovered, I guess, last year was Rick Riordan. I am so excited to read all of his books as well this year, to make that a bit of a goal because fuck, I love how he writes. And it's just so interesting and makes me super excited. I look like a potato. And just to overall allow myself to grow in my independence, in my studies, in my passions, in my desires. So let's talk about this poetry book. For the non-spoilery people, you may have heard of Lili Reinhart before. She is an actress who plays Betty in Riverdale. And if you haven't seen Riverdale, I don't recommend it. I did watch many seasons of it because it was something fun to talk about with friends, and I did enjoy the first season, but it definitely went to a place that just wasn't good. I really ended up disliking majority of the characters except Betty and Jughead. The musical episode, that was the end of it for me. But Lili Reinhart is a beautiful actress. She seems like a really beautiful person as well, very educated and soft and kind. And I heard that she wrote a poetry book, so I was very intrigued to read it. And in saying that, I enjoyed this book, but it wasn't something that wowed me. This is also the first book that I've read of 2021. It wasn't bad. I still enjoyed this poetry book, and I can see a lot of potential in Lili to create something much better for the next time round because she actually writes really beautifully. There's a lot of imagery there and a lot of emotion. Whenever I read a poetry book, I'm analysing it, but I'm also reflecting on my own past experiences, and this made me think a lot to my own heartbreak in the past of being in relationships that didn't serve me, that were hurtful, that were clearly filled with red flags. The thing that I disliked about this book was it was very repetitive. It was all about heartbreak and there wasn't this break of that. These poems had quite a depressive quality to them as they didn't develop. We only saw her in this place of resentment. This book stayed on the same level. It didn't climb mountains. It didn't go somewhere. I did feel a bit cheated with the title of the book being Swimming Lessons. I felt like we weren't given the lessons. We were just told, I was in a relationship, he was cheating on me, I loved him though, more than he loved me, and that's it. You do get that treading water image, but where is the laps down the pool? Where is that growth from the place you start in? So I'm going to go into the spoilery section and I'm going to talk about the poems that I did enjoy. So here we go in 3, 2, 1. So this is on page 9 and this is actually the blurb at the back of the book, but I actually really enjoyed this. I seem to be your new favourite novel, one that keeps you up at night, turning my pages. Fingers lingering on me so you don't lose your place. This was a really interesting poem on page 45. It's easier for me to talk about forever than it is for you. You're a present man, with whom I see this vast, extraordinary life. Part of me can't help but dream about the years to come because of this love that I feel for you now. I'm anxious to keep loving you and to create more moments of bliss. My future is beautiful because I see the happiness that is inevitable for me, with you by my side. And I really love this because it speaks truth when you're in a relationship and you can see possibilities of it being beautiful. You can see it growing into something unimaginable. But the downside are when you can see that your partner isn't on that same level as you. This poem on page 67 really made me think about who these poems could be about, if it's about a past lover or if it's about her recent breakup. I keep reminding myself that we are not feeling the same things. You said so yourself, I'm more invested than you are. You're not experiencing this rejection. Sitting with one leg crossed over the other, smoking cigarettes and turning from me as you exhale, shifting your attention away. I'm sitting miles from you, it seems. Memorizing the curl of smoke escaping your lips, feeling the loss of you, the strain in my chest when you forget I'm even here. And that's what hurts the most, feeling this alone. Mutual heartbreak would be the only comforting option, but you can't seem to spare me that. This poem is beautiful. I think this poem is really great, but it's so depressing. Like, if this book overall had one poem to highlight what this story is all about, the mood, the tone of this book is this poem right here. So this was one of my favorite poems of this entire book on page 75. Brush me off. I dare you. That way, in time, when you see I was right, you'll feel a sting on your shoulder where I once was. The imagery in this poem is so beautifully haunting. This poem on page 85 all the way through to 90 really made me think to a past relationship where saying I love you was unrequited, but there was something really beautiful about telling someone the truth in how you feel about them. This deep and droning pulse to love him wasn't a choice. It was a need that led me to pursue this beautiful but broken person, this emotionally unavailable human being whose heart was so wrapped up in fear. Fear of being vulnerable and exposed. Fear of feeding the ache that was already growing. But I craved passionate, overwhelming euphoria. I wanted that kind of love so desperately that I was willing to hurt myself in order to find it. Relatable. I wanted to love him, and so I did. Through the rejection and the women, I was there feeling weak. I kept offering my heart to someone who didn't want it, humiliating myself within the pages of a journal that I filled with thoughts of him. But it was love, overflowing, and that's what kept me coming back. The faith I had placed in the words, your heart will never lead you astray. So I kept loving and I let myself fall. I welcomed the inevitable heartbreak. I accepted the reality that I was a hopeless romantic. And when I told him I loved him, it was because I couldn't hold it in any longer. There had been so many moments lying next to one another with my head on his chest, my eyes stinging with tears. I desperately wanted to say I love you, but I was scared that it would push him away, until the overwhelming urge became too heavy to keep in. That rainy, grey afternoon, I walked unshielded under the clouds. I held his face in my hands and said those words. Words that felt as if they were crafted for that moment. And it didn't matter if I was rejected. It was pure truth, whether it was reciprocated or not. This poem is just so relatable to past Sid saying I love you to someone who didn't say it back. This was really sweet on page 103. It made me think to the first time my partner and I said I love you to each other. He said I love you with his eyes closed, the tip of his nose resting against mine. Backlit by the sun, with small particles floating in the air around his head, our fingers interlaced gently. I swore I was looking into heaven, seeing this warm, bright glow behind him. It was a feeling I don't think I'll ever experience again, not entirely the way I felt it that first time. But I still feel that warmth, like a stream of sunlight being poured into me, moving throughout my body, when I hear you say those words. I love you. To love and to be in love, to be loved, it's honestly the most beautiful thing in this world. This poetry book has made me reflect so hard on a past thing that I had, and this is also tied in there on page 165. 4 a.m. I built a wall around myself as our conversation spiraled and my hope faded. I wrapped myself in a blanket like a shield and felt the concrete blocks of the freshly paved wall around me start to harden. I slept at the edge of the bed, far away from the stranger at the other end. So this is the last poem I'm going to read on page 223 all the way through to 225. It's strange to see the world move on when someone you love gets taken from you. The small space surrounding you is stuck, frozen in a moment of loss and shock. Yet the people passing are continuing on at their normal pace. Do they not feel the earth shake or slow? Can they hear the thoughts screaming in my head? Their name, their face, memories, flashes of a friend, a lost friend. We always expect the earth to stand still, for the universe to grieve the loved ones we have lost along with us. But it keeps moving, maybe as a sign that we should too. The movement of strangers like a wave taking us with them. So we ebb and flow with the passage of others, coasting off their energy while preserving our own, because it's too hard to give anything right now to anyone, except for them, the one we've lost. And we pray that they're silently moving in tandem with us, guiding us through the waves when we can't swim. And this poem is definitely one of my favourites within this entire book, because I think we've all been there when you're grieving, when you're so sad, when you're so depressed about something, but you feel as if no one gets it. You feel very alone in your sadness. But that's just it. And I really love how Lili ties this in to looking at it as a reflection. If everything is moving, then maybe I should move on as well. I did really enjoy this book. I think there's so much potential. Lili is a beautiful writer, and the poems that I talked about before, I really did enjoy them. I personally wanted something uplifting, at least at the end, to see her growth, to see more of the lessons she learnt. But it wasn't bad. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It wasn't bad. But yeah, if you read this book, feel free to tell me your thoughts about it. Did you enjoy this book? And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. As usual, bye!